This is the Convene podcast.
Welcome to another Convene Talk. Kate, take it away.
Today, we are going to talk about quishing. What is quishing? Quishing is leveraging malicious QR codes to capture data. And even though QR codes have been around forever, this scam is relatively new. The first week of September, the Global Anti Scam Alliance had their annual meeting in Singapore. And at this meeting, more than 50 attendees, all of whom are cybersecurity experts, scanned a QR code that was supposed to let them skip a long line at the event. But it was actually a honeypot that was set up by the organizers of the summit to raise awareness about quishing attacks. And again, it's just putting up a QR code on what looks like official event signage, and instead the attendee scans it and they go somewhere they did not intend. I thought that this was a really brilliant way for the organizers to get everyone's attention. And according to the cybersecurity company NordVPN, 73% of Americans scan QR codes without verification. And as a result, more than 26 million have already been directed to a malicious site by doing that. Before we talk about how you can avoid this and why I personally think it's a great idea to use QR codes, I just want to share the highlights of an FTC scam alert about quishing from earlier this year. And we'll include the link for this in the show notes. So here's what it says. An unexpected package from an unknown sender arrives in your name. You open it and find a note that says it's a gift, but it doesn't say who sent it. The note also says to scan a QR code to find out who sent it, or to get instructions on how to return it. Did someone really send you a gift, or is it an attempt to steal your personal information? If you know it's really a gift, you can keep it, but know that the unexpected package could be a new twist on a brushing scam that could steal your personal information. If you scan the QR code, it could take you to a phishing website that steals your personal information, like credit card numbers or usernames and passwords. It could also download malware onto your phone and give hackers access to your device. And so what we're seeing is an event specific version of this well known scam. And the twist is that instead of receiving a gift, you're just at your favorite local convention center and you see what looks like completely legit signage, and then you end up somewhere that you didn't want to go. So I feel like this is, yes, we want to raise awareness, but I am really curious what other people think about, does this in any way hurt QR codes, or is it just something that we should all be more aware of? Barbara.
Well, just since reading this story, it's definitely changed how I look at QR codes out in the world. So this is what I was thinking about is just how the QR codes and all of these scams, they are dependent on trust. I wondered what the scammed felt like at this conference, because I feel like if you go into a conference, you think that the conference is looking out for this. Like, I would feel much more comfort scanning it inside an event. I would think that all the QR codes that are there, so it really reveals that you just can't do that. I feel like just that ability to exploit your trust is really at the heart of all scams that are related to cybersecurity. It pretends like you have a relationship or here's information that you want. So it's this double whammy of trust and desire. Like, yeah, I want to skip the line. So, Maggie, I know that you have like some expertise in this from podcasts that you've done.
Yeah, but before that, I wanted to share a personal story just that relates to what you were saying.
Yeah.
The first time actually that I heard about those phishing attacks was during a training that we had at Pcma, which is amazing because since watching those videos, I'm very vigilant about it because they showed a case where many of us have seen those restaurant QR codes or you can order on your phone. And apparently, some attackers also attach a fraudulent QR code on top of those menu stickers that you have in the restaurant itself. So now every time when I go into a restaurant, I do prefer to just order the old-fashioned way. Or if I don't have the choice and I really need to use the QR code, I actually rub it with my hand to see if there's something extra on top of it. If there is a sticker on top of the real QR code, because usually they're laminated, right? So just to see if there's anything that's been done to this QR code. And that may be a bit, being way too cautious, but I'd rather be way too cautious because, the other end of this story is not nice. You don't want to end up there. I do agree with you that being in an environment such as an event, you want to you want to have that trust in everything that's around you. But it seems that especially at cyber security conferences and such, where they discuss such ways of manipulating data, people, and extracting, very personal information, they do that on purpose to showcase how vulnerable we all are. Not only at this conference, I have a friend who's in the field, and she went to a conference where there were some, I don't know, a drone at the back of the room, which all the participants thought would be a part of the discussion. But apparently, this thing recorded a lot of information on all the participants. And they said, none of you questioned the drone being positioned there, right? Just because you automatically assume it's for good purposes. But we could have recorded. And again, like in this case, nothing bad was done with the data of the participants, but they just want to exploit an area where people need to be a bit more cautious and question. Just nobody even asked the question, what is it for? Why is it there? How are you going to use it? Barbara, I think especially you have explored this in many articles, the topic of trust in conferences and in associations and life events in general. So I hope we're not going to lose that trust just because of such cases.
Well, I feel like in the case of our email, like there's so many more phishing scams, right? And I was just thinking about what we're losing. I know that in my heightened awareness that like the risk to reward changes. I feel like it has already changed how I think about my inbox. And I do feel like these scammers are outpacing the ability of internal systems to flag them. I know that we've got great IT support and really, like could not be better, but these things still slip through because they're doing new things all the time. I think that article, Kate, that you've sent us, just the magnitude of the scam operations and how they're constantly evolving. I am very eager to see what you guys have to say.
So you mentioned the previous podcast that I did last year in a previous season. And we did a whole episode on cybersecurity with a couple of experts together with Michelle. And the one thing that they said is really the most important factor was the human factor. And they couldn't, both of these experts, now link to the episode in the show notes, both of these experts said that that's it. It starts with the person and the verification everyone does. So on that podcast, we had Michael Peters from RIMS, and he gave some great examples. And one of the examples that he gave was how they were under a ransomware attack because there was an employee who clicked 19 times on the attachment. 19 times. So she didn't, like, she kept on clicking on that very suspicious email. And, they ended up closing their company for a little bit. Just for 6 hours, they actually stopped operations, just trying to fix that and, get to the bottom of it. And of course, not pay the ransom. And it's a very tough situation because you really can do a lot of damage to the organization. So both him and Olga, who is a cybersecurity expert, they both highlighted the fact that you really need to stop and think twice before clicking on links. And if you're unsure, always check with somebody that can, verify. And I've had this case with past guest on the podcast who sent me an email, but probably he was on the move and he sent it, I guess, from his phone, but it looked extremely suspicious. And there was an attachment, and I did not click on the attachment. I made a screenshot, referred back to an old email that I have from him, sent a screenshot and said, is this really coming from you? Because it looks very, very suspicious. And I'm not clicking on anything in that email. I actually deleted it. So if you want to send it again, just verify it's you. And he verified it was him. So everything was good. But I was so freaked out that somebody has, hacked his email. So I want to also warn him that if his email is hacked, so they can double check. But everything at the end proved to be okay. And it was good. But I was very taken back by those examples, especially from RIMS, and the fact that if you're a little bit more diligent, you can really prevent something serious from happening. And Olga, she said the same thing. Just take a few seconds, think through it, and make sure just to hover over with your mouse, see where the link goes, double check the sender. If there's anything suspicious, just like flag it, don't open. So I think it really starts there.
Yeah, and that dovetails really well with the FTC's official advice. And they have 3 tips. 1, inspect the URL before you click anything. 2, keep your phone software up to date. And 3, use multi-factor authentication whenever you can. And as far as the first tip goes, this is where I think we can really get ahead of this. When you put the QR code on your sign, just add the URL right next to it so that when people click it, they can just look and say, oh, yep, this is exactly where I wanted to go. And just that little extra step, I feel like is I mean, I wouldn't say this easily, but I feel like that should prevent 99% of problems with using QR codes at events.
I agree. I was just thinking about what you could do in your email because everybody does I reach out to people that don't know me. Like how yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how when you're communicating with other people, what you could do to, like, you know, assure that you're secure.
I believe that now Outlook and all similar email clients flag outside senders that they're unsure
Right.
of. And even in our emails, you can trust, like add the email to a trust list or
Yeah.
not. So I think that's one way for the technology to do it. But then again, just staying vigilant and
Right.
there's really nothing more, I think, technology wise that you can do,
Yeah.
especially now with AI and all the deep fakes that are entering the scene and making things so very complicated. And all there's fake video calls, and it's hard. And we discussed a similar case on that podcast, and There was an example. So Olga Nasibulina, she gave 2 examples of such deep fake calls, and the one person fell for it just because the person rushed. So he or she put the situation, the company in a very bad situation. While in the other case, the person actually asked verifying questions, very simple verifying questions, and caught the scammer. So sometimes really it comes down to you're unsure, you're in a situation where it can go either way. So just ask something that you can verify it's the person that you know on the other side. Especially when it comes to, in the one case that she gave, it was the director manager relationship. So, the manager was like, okay, that's my boss. I'll just do whatever you tell me just because you're it seems like my boss is telling me. And the other case, the person double checked if that's really their boss and, somebody that's higher up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I just keep thinking about all the aggregated time that now people are spending to, like, check. I will say that some of them are pretty easy to spot. Like, many of these scams are not mastermind scams.
The
Um
prince of
Right. Yeah. But I do think that QR codes have resurged. So it's really not surprising that they are now that they're a tool that scammers are using, but I do like to order the old-fashioned way.
it's safer.
Yeah, and it's just a burden on because 'cause I'm thinking about, like, small businesses or small restaurants. They might, like, put a extra sticker over the old code, that QR code that stopped working. So I guess just slow down is good advice. I
Trust
tend to
but
get
verify.
yes, I tend to get into like a no, 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 no. I gotta get this. No, no. Look at all these emails. So, but slow down. Take a beat.
Yeah, for sure. And it really comes down to us and not Russian, like you're saying, I think is the best advice we can give to people. And again, I'll link back to that podcast where Michael is giving a lot of advice to planners on how to reverse hack his vendor systems and make sure that everything's working. Again, that's not for us lay people that just fall for QR code scams and such. So he has a lot of advice for people who are professional and can take care of these big systems. For us, staying vigilant, slowing down, hovering over a lot of things, and not using QR codes when we can. I think it's the best advice we can give. Anything else, Kate, you were thinking of?
No, that you good. I think this was a great discussion. I think we all agree that QR codes are useful and planners just need to do a little bit extra to make sure attendees feel safe.
Barbara?
No, no. I'm just sitting
I'm
here.
just
I'm
thinking.
just sitting here thinking about whether it would be, like I'm just thinking about how, like, in an event, how hard or not hard it would be to go onto a trade show and do that. I feel like it would be hard because
Yeah.
there are a lot of it's pretty well controlled when people are setting up, and there's a lot of eyes there. So anyway, that's what I was musing on.
Same thing with me. I was thinking I'm putting so many QR codes on social media for us, for our content. But it's
Yeah.
on social media. And then I'm like, sometimes just because it's easier to scan it when you have it on your screen rather than, it's
It's just about not having to type. And if they
yeah.
don't have to type anyway, you might as well just put the link.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I'm gonna start looking for that. Looking for examples where people have because when I used that URL, I had to ask them for it, and they had written it on the back of the
I mean,
mhm.
definitely they should have, like, had that ready, though. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're right to ask. If they don't know where the QR code goes, then they should be covering that up with a sticker.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I really hate to see this because QR codes now do make a lot of sense. I think
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they came out, they were kind of like a solution looking for a problem, and now they are definitely useful. Yeah, so anyway, it's a great thing to bring to people's awareness, Kate. Thanks.
And also, when you're in a foreign city, I just started noticing this here quite a bit. There's so many random QR codes around just being stuck on, I don't know, light poles and such. And there's no explanation what it is. It's like just a QR code. Who does that? And I'm like, I will never check where this goes. So, but I don't know if for those that are curious at heart, just don't scan that. You don't want to know if it's not
I would
written.
that's the kind of thing that would tempt me sorely, Maggie, if I was, like, walking down the street and saw just a random I wouldn't click on it, but I would just be like, "What is it?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also have questions, but I also know not to go there.
right. But if I were if I were younger and didn't know about the consequences, I would for sure be clicking.
Yeah, I hope nobody falls down that rabbit hole. I think we may have brought more questions and answers to people's ears, but it is what it is. We also gave a couple of solutions. Slow down, think twice.
Good advice.
Well, thank you, Kate, for bringing this up. It was a good discussion, as usual. Thank you. Remember to subscribe to the Convene podcast on your favorite listening platform to stay updated with our latest episodes. For further industry insights from the Convene team, head over to pcma.org/convene. My name is Maggie. Stay inspired, keep inspiring, and until next time.